Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Sorry about that, and welcome. Thanks for joining. We have a fantastic day in store for you today. Just to reiterate some of the points that Chris made earlier, please do submit a question, any questions you have during any of the sessions through the Totem stage, so it's Totem platform, excuse me. Each of the sessions will run for about 50 minutes, with about 35 to 40 minutes of presentation and 10 to 15 minutes for Q&A at the end. So please do put those questions into the platform. I'm delighted to welcome our first speaker today. Good morning, Daniela Gerardo from VTEX. Daniela is the General Manager for Europe at VTEX, and I know you've seen some huge, incredible growth from your origins in South America, now in Europe and worldwide, as the adoption of marketplaces continues to accelerate. So welcome, Daniela. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Andrew. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the introduction.
Sorry about the laptop swipe there at the last minute. We're really looking forward to, I was looking through your presentation. There's some fantastic stuff in the presentation today. And we're really looking forward to getting some of your insights and your perspectives and some of the case studies you have in there. So it looks fantastic. So I'll let you jump in, Daniela.
Absolutely, Andrew. Thank you very much for this opportunity and also for the introduction. As you already introduced me, I'm the General Manager of VTEX in Western Europe right now. I've been working with the company, it's already 6 years, started back in Latin America and now in Italy, but taking care of the whole region. And introducing the topic that I brought to you, as you can see here, the topic that we're going to discuss is what we call the collaborative commerce imperative, that some other people call it marketplace, right? But I'm going to try to go deeper on this marketplace strategy and to showcase how companies around the world are using marketplaces right now, not only from the traditional perspective. So from the traditional perspective, I mean eBay, Amazon, and so on, but brands are also looking for creating their own marketplaces and to position themselves as, for example, niche players of food, grocery, fashion. So this is a trend that we are seeing in a transversal way in all the verticals and in all the segments. So before I start, I think the important point here is to mention why did we arrive to this concept of the collaborative commerce and why we as company we're leveraging so much this new flag, let's say, of the collaborative commerce. And the point here is retailers are struggling to growth, right? We all know this. We all know this. And basically, in order to keep growing in a faster way and also to escalate operations, we need to think beyond traditional e-commerce. And this is where the concept of marketplace or collaborative commerce comes in. It's not only about being different and positioning ourselves as differentiated players in the market. It's also to consider the conditions and the context that we are living through right now. And basically, what I mean is, from a perspective, from a retail perspective, we are seeing an stagnant growth. So basically, it's becoming a challenge to keep growing and to keep increasing basically revenue and sales. This for several reasons. First of all, I would say market saturation, which basically means that nowadays we can easily find one product in 5, 6, 10 different touch points, and also from 5, 6, 7 different brands, retailers, multi-brands, wholesalers, distributors, and so on. So as we are living through a moment of market saturation, also brands are struggling to keep their clients loyal to the brands. Because again, as you have so many options, it's not that hard to decide to purchase from another one from one day to another. And then the other point is that even if the brands wants to sell more and if they want to increase their production lines and if they want to bring new innovator products and so on, we need to consider that product assortment is finite, is limited. We have limited spaces, we have limited warehouses, and we also have costs to consider if we want to increase our assortment of products, right? Then, from an industry or manufacturer perspective, we are dealing with different issues. For example, the channel conflict. Basically, industry doesn't know the final customer because they don't sell directly to the final customer. They go through a supply chain, right? So they go through the wholesaler and then the retailer. Sometimes there is a distribution in the middle until getting to the final customer. And even if brands, or in this case manufacturers, they want to know the final customer, they want to avoid the channel conflict. So they don't want to be seen as the ones that are cannibalizing the supply chain. And here is what we need to find a way of how to do it without generating this channel conflict. And finally, I would say the other situation that we need to consider is the fact that users are getting different and fragmented experiences. Because as I said before, you can find the same product in Amazon, in eBay, in a B2C, in a B2B, in a multi store. So basically, it's hard to guarantee that the customer is going to get always the same omnichannel experience. So consider all this scenario and all this context, we arrive to the concept of the collaborative commerce. So what is the collaborative commerce? Basically, as the word said, is the way of finding partnerships or collaborations between brands. It doesn't matter the industry itself, but at the end, the point is to increase sales by a collaborative approach. So this is what we normally call the marketplace, right? And again, why are we supporting so much, and why are we promoting and asking our clients also to engage on this kind of a strategy? Basically because when you take a look to the growth trend of a marketplace versus a traditional commerce, this is what you're going to find. So we can see retailers, the ones that are doing well, of course, growing in a tendency like this one. So something linear, right? But then when you take a look to a marketplace growth, you will see something like this. And what really calls our attention here is this point, this inflection point that we call the network effect. So, what is the network effects? The network effect is what happens basically when you, as final customer, you go to a store because you want to buy one product, but then you realize that you can buy two, three, four, five, six different, that they can be accessories, complementary, or just different products that you just like and want to add to your basket. So this act of increasing the AOV in only one place and adding more products to the basket is what creates the network effect that is bringing a potential growth for the marketplaces. And then also, if we take a look again to some numbers from the market, this is what we're going to find. Back in 2019, and I'm taking 2019 as a context because we know that 2020 wasn't a normal year, right? So back in 2018, we were already seeing 50% of the online purchases that were made through marketplaces. And then if we take a look to the money that we spent on this, we're talking about $2 trillion spent in marketplaces in only the top 100 online marketplaces back in 2019. And finally, which I think that it's the most interesting number, is the growth of the sales back in 2018. We were talking already of 22% for marketplaces. And if we try to remember which was the rate of growth of normal retailers in 2018, we're talking about something between 8 to 12%, more or less, of course, depending on the country. So basically, what we're seeing is a growth of 10 points more for marketplaces versus traditional retailer. So now, what's our offer? What's our proposition, right? So we come from the traditional concept of marketplace, which we call it an open marketplace, to the closed or the internal marketplaces. And I'm going to explain which is the difference and also the added value from each one of these. So basically, we talk about an open marketplace when we have a store in which you can add different sellers, you can add different external sellers, and normally you don't have limitations in terms of competition. So normally you allow different sellers to compete and you allow the final customer to choose based on the comparison he's making. That can be pricing, it can be shipping policy, or so on. And then we have what we call the curated open marketplace. In this case, even if we're talking about an open marketplace in which you can add products from third party sellers, the difference here is that normally the marketplaces chooses who he wants to onboard as a seller. And also, normally, there is no competition between sellers. So you have a limited quantity of categories and products, and you have normally only one seller per product. Now we go to what we call the internal the internal marketplaces, which I think is the most innovative trend right now. And basically, here we can talk about two different strategies, which is a supplier portal or a distributor portal network. What does this mean in practice? In practice, is the fact of creating a marketplace that allows your own players from your supply chain to become sellers of this. So imagine you're a manufacturer, imagine you're a brand and you want to include all the suppliers that you have and you want to make them capable of offering their own products to the final customer. Or imagine that you have your network or your chain of distribution if you want also to allow your distributors to be the ones that are going to supply and are going to ship and are going to invoice the final customer. So how can we from a product and solution perspective help you on this process, let's say, of becoming a marketplace? And basically what we are offering right now, it's this magic combination of three different components that nowadays we are the only company that can offer this from a native perspective. This is why Vtex has become a visionary according to Gartner, and we have also become a leader according to IDC. Basically because we are able to combine in only one single solution a commerce offer, a marketplace engine, and then an OMS, an order management system that actually behaves as a DOM, as a distributor order management. And what's the advantage of this, right? Because you can say, okay, I can create a marketplace with any other external solution, and you're right. But basically, what we are offering here is again the fact of finding all these components in only one end-to-end solution. So, what's the benefit from this for the client? And I divided these benefits or advantages in four ones. The first one is the fast time to market. And we know how time has become important, right? I mean, right now, as a final user, I value more the time than the money itself, than the cost itself. And we brands, we need to react also in the same way that customers are looking for. And this is why with this solution, what we have proved so far is that we're able to deploy a project 4 times faster than with a standalone commerce, marketplace, and OMS solution. And then the second point and the second advantage, it's the risk, basically the low risk of deployment. And why this? Basically, because you are relying on one single solution for being capable of selling and transactioning online. Otherwise, you will be relying in different solutions, one for the OMS, one for the CMS, one for the marketplace itself. And this, of course, creates a lot of dependencies that can affect your performance as a vendor. This takes us also to the cost, which we cannot ignore as an important variable, right? And in terms of cost, what we are able to offer is a lower TCO, a total cost of ownership, again, if compared with any other standalone solution. Basically, because as you need less integrations to be built at the beginning, you also need less integrations to maintain. Because the real cost is not at the setup of integrating a different product, the real cost is on the long term during the maintenance of these different products. And then we arrive to the final advantage, which is the flexibility. And why do I mean here? Basically, having VTEX and having all these options doesn't mean that you need to use them all from day one, right? So you can choose when you want to add the OMS, when you want to add the marketplace engine, when you want to use the commerce itself. This is a choice you can do. So as your needs increase, you can also start using new features from the solution itself. And then I brought you some customer success stories to see in practice what all this means. But before we go to the customer success stories, I decided to do something different, that is to show you actually live what all this means from a front end and back end perspective. So I'm going to pull here to some live examples just to show you what all these capabilities allow our clients to do, again, from a front end and from a back end perspective. So from a front-end perspective, first of all, here we are navigating at a marketplace, and some of the features that we can see is that I can choose a product, and in the product page, I'm already able to see the different options that I have in order to buy this product. So basically, I have what we call the buy button with different sellers option. We have here the best option, the best price option. That is not really based on price because as you can see, all the sellers are offering the same price, but also, as you can see, they're offering different conditions for installment, if you see here. So this is the best one because it's the cheaper for the client in this case. But me as a final customer, I'm able to check also the others. So if I want to see what is the seller offering me, I can just take a look here to the installment options and I can make my choice. Another important thing here is that I can see who is the seller that is going to ship and deliver the product for me. So I have, for example, Casas here as the first seller. I have Ponto here as a second seller, and I have Extra here as the third seller. Then what happens? Another thing that we allow to make natively is to combine a cart. So combine different sellers in the same cart. So basically, what I did here was to choose three different products from three different sellers. I have one that is going to be delivered by Magazine, which is the first seller in this case. I have an Apple Watch that is going to be delivered by Ponto Frio as the second seller, and I have a heater that is going to be delivered by Casas Bahia as the third seller. So I have the three mixed products from three different sellers, each of them with a price, and each of them with a different shipping policy. Why this? Basically, because each seller is controlling by himself its own shipping policy. So here I can see that even if I'm going to receive the three products within 2 business days, I have this different shipping costs from each of one. Why? Because here I'm purchasing something that is heavier, so of course the cost is going to be higher. And here I'm buying something lighter, right? But at the end, the point is each seller has the independency to control and to manage their own prices, stock availability, and also shipping policies. And I can close the order. So I can close one order that is going to be a split between these three different sellers. Who does this split? That's the point, right? Well, it's us. It's VTEX making this split of order. And how does this look for the marketplace itself from a backend perspective? This is what I'm going to show you right now. So first thing that I want to share with you is how it looks an environment or a backend from the marketplace. So here I am at the backend of a marketplace in which you can see all the modules that they have available to use. So we come from an OMS to an inventory to a payment module, catalog, because they're the ones controlling the category three, prices, promotions, and then we arrive to a CMS, a content management system, which means that basically the marketplace is going to be the one to decide the layout, right? The user experience and the UI of the website. And then if we go to the backend of the seller, which is this one, so if you take a look here, I'm taking different URLs, right? So this is the marketplace, this is the seller. And if you take a look here, what you're going to see is a smaller backend. So I don't have here, for example, a CMS that I had here for the marketplace. Why? Because the seller is not going to control the front end. The seller is going to control only the stock availability, pricing, promotions. He can sometimes do it. It depends on the model, and orders basically. So this is why I have an OMS specifically for the seller, and I have another one for the marketplace. Which is the main point here? These two environments are connected. So what does this connection mean? It means that when me as a final customer I make an order in a marketplace, but this order goes to the seller, they are communicated in real time. So the marketplace will receive it in its own OMS, and then the seller will also receive it in real time in its own OMS. And this is what I'm going to show you right now. So let me jump here. I'm here, for example, again at the marketplace OMS. As you can see, I'm here, OMS, and I'm the marketplace URL that I showed you before. And I found here, for example, this order coming from a client called Rafael that was made on April 30, and in which he bought one product for 110 pounds. This is the marketplace receiving the order, right? So again, April 13, 2325. Then if I go to the backend of the seller, so here again, I'm the backend of the seller and I'm at the OMS of the seller, I'm gonna find the same order. So it's Rafael again that bought in April 30 at 23.25 a product for 110 pounds. So this shows how OMS are connected in real time. And then if I go here to the order of the marketplaces and I open it, I'm gonna find what we call the flow, basically, of this order that as you're going to see, it's a short one. So here, for example, marketplace is not controlling the shipping, it's not controlling the handling process and so on, because this is all made from the seller itself. So if I go to the seller again and I click in the order, I'm gonna find a completely different flow, a bigger one. Why? Because it's the seller controlling shipping, is the seller controlling the handling process, and so on. At the end, each time that the seller updates this information, that of course is done automatically by API, this information also goes to the OMS of the marketplace. Why? Because the marketplace is the main point of contact with the final customer. So marketplace needs to know about what's going on, when the product was shipped, when the product was invoiced, and so on. And we arrive to the last stage, that is the invoicing. Once the product gets invoiced, this also goes to the OMS and updates the information as invoiced. So this is the flow of the orders between seller and marketplaces that I wanted to show you. Then one last thing regarding the backend itself. The real differentiator, besides UMS, that is huge, is the fact that you don't need to add a different solution to manage sellers, right? And this is what we offer natively and included in the panel, as you can see it here, a seller portal. So basically here, the marketplaces has the autonomy to decide who he wants to invite to become part of the portal of the marketplace. And it's a very simple process in which you basically put the seller name, put the email, and then the seller will get an invitation by email with the token, the access information, and so on. And in this way, the seller will get an environment like the one that I show you, in which he will be able to send products to the marketplace that the marketplace will receive here as received SKUs. And then we will have more options, right? Like approve SKUs or reject SKUs, mapping categories, matcher of products between seller and marketplace, and so on. But this was just a brief introduction to show you live how does the platform behaves and how we can offer the commerce but also the marketplace engine from one solution itself. Now please allow me to go back to the presentation and to explain you how this works in reality and what our clients are doing. And what I did here, what I tried to do was to bring you a very diversified examples, let's say, coming from different countries, different verticals, different segments, internal marketplaces, external marketplaces, and so on. And basically, what I want to show here is how combining different features that I already mentioned, which are omnichannel, OMS, marketplace, and of course the B2C engine itself, clients are making history and are revolutionizing also their own segments and industries. So let's start by one very well known, right? So I don't need to make an introduction about Unilever. We all know the CPG company. What they are doing that is very disruptive and innovative. Basically, we launched 2 weeks ago a marketplace B2B for Unilever. In this marketplace, SMBs are able to to see and to buy products directly from the distributors. So it's not Unilever selling by themselves. Are the distributors of Unilever selling their products, Unilever products at the end, right, to the SMBs? So first point, if you go to Compre Ahora, which is the website in Spain working right now, you as final user won't be able to purchase because this is a B2B marketplace, as I said before. But if you're able to purchase as a B2B, as an SMB, you're going to find different categories and products, and mainly the stock coming directly from the distributors. So some points and some KPIs important to mention here to highlight. First of all, this is a very nice example of how collaboration is working inside the companies. And if you take a look to the time to market, we are talking about a project that was implemented in only 2 months. This is what took the implementation itself. Let's jump to another example. Carrefour, that again, I don't need to introduce. We are currently supporting the second biggest online operation of Carrefour in the world after France. And what are we doing for them? Basically, and first of all, we managed to make a migration from a very enterprise solution to VTEX in only 8 months. And you can say, wow, 8 months is almost 1 year. That's a lot. But it's not if you consider that we're talking about a client with more than 7 million of SKUs. And also if you consider that we are talking about a client with that involved more than 150 people during the implementation and migration process. Well, at the end, what we are doing is also to allow Carrefour to become a marketplace, in this case, again, an internal marketplace, by using its own physical stores as white label sellers. Me, as final customer, I'm able to put my postal code, and then I'm able to see which are the physical stores that can serve me and which one is the one that can serve me in the best way, so with the best SLA. Again, one metric that I would like to highlight is the conversion rate in this case. We were able to achieve 30% of increasing in conversion rate after the migration. Let's jump to a very nice segment, which is chocolate. Who doesn't like chocolate, right? So here we're talking about Dengo, a chocolate factory that was suffering a lot at the beginning of the pandemic. So basically, as the stores were closed, sales started to decrease. And they did two very nice things to try to recover and to surpass also the situation. One is they allow the physical stores, we are talking here about 18 physical stores, to also become sellers. So they started using the stock and the material, the products itself that they had already stock in the physical stores, and allow the physical stores to make the ship from store direct to the final customer, and also to offer the pickup store. And then the second very nice thing is that they combine omnichannel with experience. And they started using our live stream feature, which also comes natively with VTEX. That is a live stream that allow the vendor, in this case the sales assistant, to be closer to the final customer. So basically, through this experience, the final customer could actually see the products, could see the ingredients, could actually feel the quality of the product. And the vendor had the option and the possibility also to explain better the process and to convince, of course, the final customer to actually purchase. So, what was the result from this? Basically, after 15 days that they implemented these two processes, they saw already an increase in orders of more than 100% compared to before. Dia, again, supermarket, grocery segment, and a very similar experience to the one that I just explained about Carrefour, and also very similar to Walmart that I'm going to show also in a bit. What's the nice thing here to highlight? Well, we're talking about 352 stores also integrated to the online as white label sellers. So again, in this case, I'm able as a final customer to choose from which one I want to purchase, but also the OMS is playing an important figure here because the OMS is allowing to offer at the checkout already the physical store that is going to give me the best SLA. And this minimizes the out of stock notifications at the checkout that can, of course, decrease the conversion. Here we're talking about a project that we migrated in only 3 months, so a very record time, considering a grocery and also the complexity of the grocery world. And also we're talking about a 100% of increase in conversion rate after the migration. Now let's jump to Coca-Cola, another one that doesn't need an introduction, right? And here situation is a little bit different because we are talking about the industry itself going D2C, going directly to the consumer, but using the supplier and the distributor channel that they have in the physical world. So Coca-Cola now, and this was not because of the pandemic. This is something I would like to highlight. They were doing this also before the pandemic. So it's been 3 years that they are running this website. They were visionary, I think so, because they didn't have to leave a pandemic to do this and to decide to go directly to the consumer. And with this, they're offering the possibility not only of buying their products, but also customizing their products. You can put your name, you can put a message in the bottle, and so on. And then they are also allowing the customers to receive the products in the same day delivery. This, of course, because they are using all the delivery network that they have already in the physical world. And in this case, they can sell the order directly to the distributor that is closer to the final customer. One important number here to highlight is the growth rate they had in 2020. We're talking about 100%. Now let's change again of vertical and let's talk a little bit about shopping malls. And again, this is very innovative, right? Seeing a shopping mall selling all the products from all their sellers online. This, in this case, was motivated because of the pandemic, but we had already some cases of shopping malls doing this in other countries. In this case, we're talking about Veranda, which is a shopping mall from the eastern side of Europe, Romania, that were able in only 75 days to block all the brands of the shopping mall from the physical world and make them become digital sellers. They were able to let's say, contrast the situation they were living before because the shopping was closed, and they were able to increase sales also to this strategy as marketplace. Again, another vertical, fashion. We didn't talk that much about fashion, but this is something that, I mean, as I said before, all the verticals are doing already. And from the fashion world, I could also talk about CNA because we have a very nice case of CNA becoming marketplaces and allowing already more than 30 different sellers to sell different products in their website. But in this case, I wanted to focus on Soma. Soma is one of the biggest fashion groups in Latin America with different brands like Farm Rio, Animale, and Foxton, and so on. And they, by leveraging the omni-channel experience, they are achieving some numbers, like for example 80% of overall growth after the migration and 30% of increasing delivery in locations thanks to the ship from store implementation. So basically, again, they are integrating all the physical world and they are allowing the physical stores to ship directly to the final customer or also to offer the pickup store possibility. Another very nice thing that they are doing, and this they started to do it because of the pandemic, is to use the store attendants as social sellers. And this was motivated because of the pandemic, because basically store attendants were not working as close as the stores were closed, right? And instead of just um, stop the contract or firing them, right, they offered the opportunity for these store attendants to become digital attendants. And now you as an attendant, you can have your own store. So basically you can have Animale slash Daniela, and I can have my own catalog with different promotions. I can offer discounts. I can offer, for example, a 10% of shipping if you buy from me. And then as an store attendant, I will get the commission after the process, after I sell. Another segment that is making a huge change from the digital perspective, that is the automotive world. I have here as an example Mazda, but we are seeing also Nissan doing this, Volvo, and so many other companies. In this case, we were able to deploy a project in a very fast way that, again, combining of the channel and marketplace, allows the dealers from Mazda to make the delivery and the sale at the end of the cards itself. So basically, if I go to Mazda, I'm able to make a reservation. I don't pay the complete car online. But once I make this reservation, is VTEX OMS the ones that sell the order to the dealer that is closer to the final customer? Sorry. Walmart grocery example, so very similar to the ones that I just explained, Carrefour, India, again, combining of the channel. And I think the most important thing is giving full stock visibility from its complete store network. Nestle, they are doing something very nice that is actually offering a benefit, an extra benefit to their own employees. So basically, they created a B2E in which they have different segmentations and different possibilities according to your profile. So you can have a discount and a benefit if you are an employee, and you can have a different one if you belong to the friends and family cluster. They are digitalizing not only for the external world, but also for the internal world. And what we see here is different segmentations rules that they are able to create in order to be closer to their employees. I think you all agree with me that after the pandemic, all the companies started to take more care about the employees and the health status and so on. So this is just one example of how brands are also looking internally and using online to bring more benefits to the employees itself. Here, the main KPI I wanted to share is a conversion rate increasing of 15%. Then I have another example from Europe, which is another supermarket that after the pandemic also was able to include all the physical stores and basically to improve the delivery capacity 10 times more. Mini Pre, which is another case coming from the eastern side of Europe. This is one of the most famous fashion brands that at the beginning of the pandemic was suffering a lot because of a fall in traffic and in sessions and of course in sales. So what they do, they started thinking what people were looking for at the beginning of the pandemic. And if we all stop to think, we were a little bit paranoid, right? We were scared at the beginning of the pandemic. We were not actually purchasing clothes. We were purchasing food and basically medicines. So they decided to add a new category into their website. They keep selling their products. So as you can see here, perfumes and some other products, but they added a different category that was a mini market. And actually, they didn't own these products. They integrated an external seller that was taking care of all the operation, fulfillment, shipping, and so on. And they just attracted people by offering these kind of products. At the end, what they were able to create was a combination between cross-sell and upsell, in which people that were there only to buy food ended up also buying some products directly from the mini pre-catalog. And finally, this is the final one that I have. It's Grupo Éxito. Grupo Éxito belongs to Casino from France, and it's the largest retailer group in the northern Latin America. Even if we are talking about the largest retail group, we are seeing already them making some marketplaces strategies and adding some products that don't belong to them. And why they're doing this? Basically because they discovered that in the search, people were looking for some products that they don't produce, that they don't own. So this is why they decided to allow other sellers, other brands to plug their catalogs and to start also selling products from external third parties, basically. As main KPI here, what we are seeing is a growth during Black Friday of 2019 of already 45%, and also by the omnichannel, because they also allow the physical stores to be part of this strategy. They are making already 25 more orders through the physical stores. I guess this is it. We arrived to the end. I did it in 36 minutes, so I think we still
Fantastic.
have some room for questions, right, Andrew?
Right on time. That's fantastic. Yeah, some great questions come in, and thank you for the amazing insights. Some of those examples are fantastic and very different, very diverse. So going through the questions from the audience, if a third party sells a product on our marketplace, who owns the customer data?
The marketplace. That's a very good question. In a normal marketplace, it is a marketplace. I mean, this is the objective of the marketplace, because as he wants to attract more people, he also wants to make people to become loyal, right? And that's why he needs this data. If instead of this he gives the data to the seller, then the customer can goes directly to the seller. So normally in a normal marketplace is a marketplace. But what I'm saying normally, we are seeing some cases in which the sellers are the internal ones. So, for example, the dealers in an automotive company. And what companies are asking us is for the dealer to have access also to the data of the clients. So, this is something we can do from a technological perspective. But again, from a traditional perspective, it is the marketplace that owns the data.
How much control can you have over which products third parties sell on your marketplace?
100%. Every time the seller selects or chooses a product that wants to be that he wants to send to the marketplace, then the marketplace needs to make an approval process. This can be automatic or this can be manual. You can set up some rules for making automatic by API, for example. But it's the marketplace that needs to accept and again approve all the products and SKUs coming from the sellers.
Okay, we've got a question here around returns, I think, and refurb. If a seller on our marketplace decides to start selling old or returned stock at discounted prices, this could be damaging to our brand. How can this be controlled?
Sorry, can you repeat it? If a seller decides?
Sure. If a seller on our marketplace decides to start selling old or returned, I guess, or refurb stock at discount prices, this could be damaging to our brand. How could this be controlled?
So basically, when there is always a contract between the seller and the marketplace. I mean, besides the technological scope and everything else, there are some things that you need to do physically, right? So you need to agree in the conditions that the seller and the marketplace are going to offer both of them. Normally, the marketplace makes the promotions with the previous acceptance, of course, of the seller. It's not the seller that has the capability 100% of choosing what he wants to offer in a discount way or not. Normally it's the marketplace that motivates also sellers to make some discounts. And how they motivate it? Sometimes they say, if you make a discount higher, I'm going to put you at the top of my sellers in the homepage, or I'm going to create a banner only for you to appear as a first option for my final customers. But this is always, let's say, offer from the seller itself.
Is having a display ad inventory on your marketplace a good idea so that sellers can promote their product listings? Does that question make sense?
Showing inventory stocks.
I think the question is having a display ad on your marketplace a good idea? So I think this is a recommendation from the audience. Having display ad inventory on your marketplace so that sellers can promote their product listings. I think that's similar to, I guess, promoted listings or sponsored products, right? That you might see on other marketplaces. I think that's what that question's about.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I got it because he says also inventory. So I'm not sure if the question if it's a good idea to show the stock availability at the marketplace. Is it? I mean, if the one that asked it
I
can
think it's about
confirm it.
promoting products. Sellers can promote their product listings. So on eBay, obviously, you have promoted listings. On Amazon, you have sponsored products, right? So I guess it's a way of pushing up
Yeah,
particular
exactly. But again, this all needs to be accepted from the marketplace, and from a layout perspective, it's also the marketplace that is the one that can control this. So how to show the let's say the drop down of sellers or top products or so on.
Okay, awesome. Next question: how large a geography should a marketplace cover? So that's a geographical question. Could it be country specific or region wide or pan-European? I guess what's your perspective or advice on that?
Yeah, I don't think there is a right answer for this because it depends on the strategy of the marketplace. I mean, I'm going to give you some examples. We just closed a marketplace here in Italy that is a marketplace of Italian food. And for them it makes a lot of sense to sell to all Europe, right? Because it's not Italian people that the only ones that want to buy Italian food is recognized in Spain, in the UK, and so on. So they're making something for the whole Europe. But then if we go to Shop Fácil, that is the one that I showcased before, that is a marketplace from a bank in Brazil. As they are dealing only with national sellers, for them it doesn't really make sense to sell abroad, and also they are not selling something very differentiated in terms of product. I mean, it's not like a niche marketplace as the one that I just told you of Italian food. So in their case it doesn't make sense to sell outside Brazil, so it depends on the strategy.
Makes sense. Got a question here about returns. Can you elaborate on how returns work on one of your marketplaces?
Yeah. Well, the point is the marketplace is the responsible for what we call the um, level one of service, right? So basically, when a client wants to make a request of return, this goes directly to the marketplace because he's the one that has the direct contact with the seller. Same thing for the customer care. If the final customer wants to call to the customer service to ask for a return, he will do it to the marketplace, and then the marketplace needs to manage this with the seller. So internally, from a backend perspective, there is also the way to have the direct communication, right? So the marketplace sells a request to the seller. The seller is the one that needs to send, for example, the transportation, the shipping company, in order to get the product and get it back to the warehouse, because at the end is the warehouse of the seller. So it's a process that from a technological perspective it's all communicated and connected, but then it requires of course a lot of organization, because as I said before, you need the customer care and you need also the customer care from the seller. You need to update both of them to be able to give the real-time information from the kind of final customer, and then you need to consider also the cost of a return from a seller perspective in this case, because he's the one again dealing with this process, with the operational process itself.
Yeah, makes sense. Next question is around, I guess, the commercial model. So the question is, what is the deal between us and one of the third-party sellers? Do we charge them a commission per sale? Maybe you can talk more broadly about the models that people use and your model that you recommend.
Yeah, I mean, there is always a commission that is charged on the seller. And what we're seeing is different commissions depending on the seller, but also depending on the category. It doesn't make sense to have a that much higher, for example, commission for electronics, but you can have it for fashion, for example. So this is something that, again, from a technological perspective, we can cover. Inside the seller portal, you can choose what's the commission per seller, or also per category inside different sellers. But this is normally the model. So yeah, it's a commission that the marketplace charges on each seller.
Okay, cool. I know we're running short on time. Do you have any examples for VTEX in the UK that you can speak about?
We do have a lot of clients in the UK. We have the first one right now becoming a marketplace, which is a shoes company that is adding some products from Latin America.
Right.
So we are seeing some cross-border marketplace also being born right now.
Cool. A couple more general questions, I guess. Marketplaces obviously is growing, as you know very well. What's your observations of reasons why marketplaces don't work, or some of your learnings and observations of that?
That's a good point, and it's true. I mean, we also have some marketplaces that they come with these great ideas, and at the end, it doesn't happen, right? I think at the end, it's a lack of preparation from a technological perspective and from a team perspective. I think there is still a myth, right, around how easy it is to become a marketplace, and it's not. We are still talking about low margins, and we are talking about cost, as I said, customer service, and so on. So I think it's more oriented to the lack of preparation, lack of a P&L. A lot of people come to us saying, I want a marketplace with 800 sellers for the first year. And you know that it's not feasible. I mean, you need to consider, you need to convince the seller to become a seller. It's not like, hey, I'm having a marketplace and from one day to another, all of them will love to be part of your marketplace. Because this at the end represents also a cost for the seller, not only for the commission, again, for the process itself. So I think it's underestimated, I think that's the main reason why.
Maybe we can just close on the obvious question. What's the next step for people that want to adopt marketplaces, and what would the process look like?
Okay, so there are different processes coming from, again, technology to administration to the team, also to the team building. Basically, what I recommend is working on the financial plan first of all. So make a P&L as you were opening any kind of business. Once you have the P&L, once you know more or less the cost that you can expend for each thing, um, then choose the technology partner and consider always that the TCO of a technology shouldn't be that higher. I mean, what Forrester and Gardner recommends is something around 3%. So consider that. Consider always the worst scenario and the best scenario. And then start working on the commercial because again, it's not easy to onboard the sellers. And another point is we don't know if the seller is prepared. That's another point why I think the marketplaces don't go well. You're going back to your last question. Because sometimes we want to engage sellers that are very small and unprepared from a technological perspective. So they don't have an ERP, for example. You need to control everything manually. And it's not that it's not possible to do, but of course it's harder. So yeah, I would recommend a financial plan, P&L, and then looking for the different options for payment, technology, and all the providers that you need, and then starting to work on the commercial approach with the sellers.
We're going to try and squeeze one last question in because we've got one more good one. If a consumer has a cart of products from different sellers who are based in different countries, does the marketplace look after the different duties and taxes that needed to be added in the checkout? So I think that question is about who takes responsibility for duty and VAT tax calculations.
Yeah, I mean, is the marketplace that is controlling it at the checkout, right? So is the marketplace that has all the configurations for this. So basically, when you're at the checkout, we have, for example, Avalara as one connector for this. So Avalara is able to see where the product is coming from, where the product is going. We have some countries in which inside the country you have different taxes according to the product. So they bring all this information live in the checkout, but at the end, again, the cost goes directly to each seller. It's not like the marketplace is assuming the taxes cost.
Awesome. Listen, we're out of time. We've got some more questions. So obviously for those of you that want to have
I
more
love
questions,
it.
please do contact Daniela and the team. You can get them directly for the end of the questions. Daniela, listen, great stuff, great content, some really great perspectives. Thanks for making time to join us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Andrew. It was a pleasure. And please, the ones that I couldn't answer the questions, please send me an email. I would be more than happy to do it.
Great stuff. And for those of you that are jumping back on, the next session with Avalara and Katawiki, that starts at 11:25. We'll take a short break. Thanks, everyone. See you soon.